Welcome everyone to week number 7. Can you believe it? We have this week and next week, and you will be finished with the term. So why? I can't believe it. Time has just flown by. So anyway, let's see what we've got going on. Okay, last week you finished up your paper on your topic. You did a lot of research, you did a lot of deciding, and you had to think about things, and you had to come up with a big research question and then a more specific hypothesis. You had to figure out how you were going to answer that hypothesis, and you put it all together in this final paper in week 6. Now, you should have learned a lot about your topic. And that's where we're going from this point forward. You are going to make a presentation. So I'm going to get into that in just a second. This week, start your work off in chapter 7. Oh, by the way, you don't have any discussion postings this week. So chapter 7. Chapter 7 is all about the communication of science. A terribly important topic. And the example that they give is a scientific report that went out to the general public about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill and how BP had to pay money to so many human beings along the Gulf Coast where their livelihoods were affected. There are lots of statistics in the report, and that is important in science. If you don't see data, if you just see a bunch of opinions, you can count on that not being a scientific communication. You have to see data, you have to see results in a scientific communication, and you do in this report. You see how many marine animals were killed, how many shorebirds, how many fish that they could count, how much shoreline was affected, how long it went on, how many gallons of oil were spilled, how this affected the economy. You see all these numbers there. So you know this is some science that's being expressed to you. And that is very important because science is there to help you understand things and then make up your own mind about topics. And you decide then what to do about something. So from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, should we be changing laws? Should oil companies be held more responsible than they are for ecological damage that they do, like this oil spill? So there are questions that are raised from understanding the science behind a topic. So you're learning about communication of science in this chapter, and we've been talking about that. Remember, you had to choose your audience, and then you had to figure out how you were going to communicate your topic to your audience. You have a very different level of communication if you're talking to a group of preschoolers about ocean acidification rather than a group of expert scientists who understand everything about ocean acidification, right? Totally different level of communication. This is very important, and really, of course, everybody knows that communication is important in all aspects of life. Scientists sometimes forget this. So when I was at Clemson doing my graduate work, my professor, my advisor, was a biophysicist. And somehow I ended up in the physics building. Oh my goodness. Yeah, every stereotype that you can think of a physicist, yes, I met somebody who was like that. And they had a lot of trouble expressing what their research was to an ordinary person. I was told many years ago to think about whatever your topic is and have a 2-minute elevator speech about whatever your topic is. And what does that mean? That means you sum up everything about your topic, your job, your research, whatever it is, in 2 minutes that is easily understood by someone that you would meet in an elevator. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing to learn how to do. And I've been using that ever since then to help me coagulate in my mind everything that I do so that I can communicate it effectively to someone. And I want to mention peer review because this is discussed in this chapter, and I want you to understand the importance of peer review, especially in science. It is terribly important. So you put your work out there. and you publish it in journals, you go and give talks about your work, and then you allow your peers to evaluate what you have done, your work, the results that you've obtained, what you think it means, where you think this is going in the future. Your peers have the ability to give you feedback. That is peer review. It is extremely important in science. We have found huge mistakes that very well-known scientists have made because of peer review. So I can't express strongly enough how that works. Even when you send your work into a journal to be published, you'll have 3 or 4 peers who are editors look at your work, examine it very closely, critique it, and most of the time you get back a message that says, no, we're not going to publish this unless you make these changes, and they will list the changes. And so of course you do that, and then you'll have your work published. So peer review is terribly important, and that is a true part of science. So what are you doing this week? You're putting together your speaker's notes for your presentation. So your presentation is going to be some slides, like PowerPoint slides. You don't have to make them in PowerPoint. You can make them in Google Slides. You can make them in Canva. I don't know all the ways that you can make slides, but you make them any way that you want to. I love PowerPoint. I've also used Prezi. If you've ever used Prezi, that's really cool because those are slides on steroids. They fly all around your screen. But I've done Prezi presentations. So however you want to do this. So you're going to put together a set of slides. Now, I suggest this week that you outline the slides that you are going to make. Be sure to use the guidelines in week 8 about how many slides you have, because I think it's only between 5 and 7 slides that you need to have. This does not specifically correlate to the paper that you've written. So be aware of that. You're cutting down on the information that you gathered for that paper. So the speaker's notes go along with that presentation, and that's why you have to have your slides outlined so that you know what you're talking about on each slide. Okay, let me go to the rubric for your speaker's notes. So here are your sections. The scientific background. Now, you can have a title slide if you want. That is perfectly fine. And then go into the scientific background. You don't have to, boom, just start off with the science. I would always suggest having a title slide. So, scientific background. What is it that you learned about your topic? So, of course, you have to tell them what your topic was. Ocean acidification. You've got to tell your audience what that is, okay? So lowering of the pH of the ocean water caused by the diffusion of excessive carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Where did that carbon dioxide come from? It came from combustion of fossil fuels. So you got to give them the background information and your sources. Don't forget to talk about your sources here. To give an idea of what this topic is and why it is important. Okay, the next section is your audience. You're going to explain to your audience how this particular topic impacts them. Now, why is this important? Because if you go into a group of people and you start talking about ocean acidification, do you know how many people will be totally turned off by that? Probably 99% of the people. But you have to show them why this is important to them, why it's an important topic to even think about. That's the audience section. Empirical evidence, here's where you really dive into the meat of your sources that you have. Use statistics, use data, use graphs, anything like that you found. That goes right here in the empirical evidence section. Personally, explain why this is important to you. Okay, you've explained to your audience why it's important to them. How does this affect you personally? Why? Why does this concern you? Why do you think it's important? Investigation, show how this issue impacts your thinking on the issue. What did you figure out about this? How has your thinking changed about ocean acidification because of all the research that you've done? Now, message, this is not a slide. Message is, are you communicating this effectively with your audience? And then articulation of response, is all your grammar right? Do you follow the instructions, etc.? You know what all that stuff means. Okay, so that's the sections that you should have for your slides, and that's also what you should cover in your speaker's notes. So what the heck are speaker's notes? All right, let me show you. Oh, I started making my own presentation on ocean acidification, and of course I put a nice picture of a fish there because fish are dying because of the lowering of the pH of the ocean water. So anyway, you'll notice that I have a big title. I have a graphic. That's that picture. So I'm showing them something that pertains to ocean acidification. And then I have some bullet points. What is ocean acidification? How does it happen? What are the effects? How can we stop it? Right? Some bullet points. You never, ever write out everything that you're going to say on a slide. Do you know how boring that is? Have you ever seen a presentation like that? Boy, I have. Oh, my word. You know who's the worst? Geneticists. Oh, my goodness. They will put up screen, slide after slide after slide of A, T, G's, and C's from DNA. Just one letter after another, after another, after another. And we're supposed to understand what that means. So anyway, yeah, don't do that. Make a few bullet points. Make even one bullet point. That's all that matters. But you notice down at the bottom of the slide where nobody can see, your audience can't see this, there's an area that says click to add notes. All right, this is where your speaker's notes are going to go after you write your speaker's notes. So what are your speaker's notes? Speaker's notes are what you would say to your audience when you're showing them that slide. It's what you're explaining to them that has to do with this particular slide. Your audience cannot see the speaker's notes. Only you can see them. So this is where you're going to put your speaker's notes, but this week you're going to write them. Okay, so you're going to write them as a paper, and you know what sections you need to cover. There they are right there in the rubric, right? Scientific background, audience, yeah. It's not the same sections as your paper in week 6, if you notice that. This is cut way, 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 way down, and it gets right to the meat of the topic. Okay, so that's what a slide should look like, and that's where you put the speaker's notes in week 8. You will take your speaker's notes that I have graded, and you will stick them at the bottom of your slide like that. And why is that important? Because a lot of people don't remember what they're supposed to say when they stand up in front of an audience or a group of people that they're trying to present to. If you got a lot of experience, you can usually do that right off the top of your head. But if you don't, you need some guidance, and that's where the speaker's notes come in. Okay, my last slide of this talk. There's my name again. There's my email address again. If you need me, please email me so that we can figure out what's going on and how to fix a problem if you've got one. A couple of things you need to know. There's a deadline for this course. It is Sunday, October the 22nd, before midnight. So 11:59 p.m., October 22nd, is your deadline for this course. You cannot add anything to the course. You cannot keep turning in work. Everything has to be finished by then and turned in. Nothing can be accepted past that point. I can't do it. All I can do from that point forward for the next 2 days is grade. So you can't send it to me to put in because I can't do it either. That's the deadline for our course. If you see that you have most everything completed, but you're having a family emergency and you just can't do it, we can request an incomplete. You have to have completed 70% of the coursework successfully. That means A, B, or C grades before we can ask for an incomplete. And we have to do that before the end of the term. So please be communicating with me if you're thinking that we're going to have to ask for an incomplete, because I have to ask for it ahead of time, and I have to check off a box that says that you have successfully completed 70% of the course. And if I don't check off that box, they will not let you take an incomplete. And then at that point, you have a month to finish up. I mean, the month is maximum. Maximum amount of time is a month to finish out the work in the course. So anyway, that's an option if we need it. Hopefully you won't, because that just moves into your next term and you need to be doing the work for that term. So with that being said, I hope that you have a great week number 7, making your speaker's notes. This should be fun because now you know all about your topic. So that's great. So with that being said, I hope you have a great week.